All right, let's talk about something, those repeating numbers, like 1111 on the clock or seeing 444 everywhere? Well, today we're going to look at this from a totally different angle. We're digging into an ancient Indian spiritual take on why this happens. And get this, it has everything to do with your ego. So let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed that? Maybe you're going through something tough, a breakup, a big career change, just a really heavy emotional time. And bam, suddenly these number patterns are just everywhere. It feels like it can't be a coincidence, right? Well, according to the perspective we're digging into, you're right. It's not a coincidence at all. And the reason why? It's pretty fascinating. So that's the big question, isn't it? Is this just some kind of cosmic coincidence? Well, there's this ancient spiritual philosophy that says nope, not at all. In fact, it argues that the timing is everything. These patterns show up precisely when we're feeling emotional and vulnerable. And there's a very, very specific reason for that. And what's so cool about this is that it's not some new age trend. Seriously, in ancient India, they had words for this, Sanket or Lakshan. These weren't just random coincidences to them. They were seen as, well, the source calls them cosmic indications. Think of it like a little ping, a little signal from a much deeper part of your own consciousness. Okay, so why during the tough times? Why then? Well, the idea here is that intense emotion, it's like it clears the static. It quiets down all the noise from our busy, logical brain and makes our mind more subtle. And in that quiet space, that's when we can suddenly start picking up on these deeper patterns and connections that are always there, but we're usually too busy to notice. But it goes even deeper than just a subtle mind. There's a much bigger process happening here, and it has to do with our very identity, our sense of self. And this is where we get into the Vedantic view of how these powerful emotions actually start to, well, crack the ego. And that's what opens the door for some real, profound transformation. And this idea, it's not some obscure footnote. It is a central theme you see again and again in Indian mythology. I mean, think about the big ones, right? Arjuna having a complete breakdown on the battlefield, the intense asceticism of Shiva, the entire journey of the Buddha. For every single one of them, the huge transformation, the enlightenment, it didn't start when they were on top of the world. It started from a moment of total emotional collapse. It's like the foundational pattern. So let's walk through how this actually unfolds step by step. First, you hit that intense emotional phase. That pain, that turmoil, it starts to wear down and dissolve your rigid ego identity. The story of who you think you are. As that protective shell gets weaker, your perception, your awareness naturally gets sharper. And boom, it's right there, in that state of heightened, open awareness, that these patterns finally pop into view. Okay, this next part is a really big shift in how we usually think about this stuff. A lot of people see angel numbers and their first instinct is to Google, what does 444 mean? They try to decode it, but this perspective, it asks us to just pause and reframe the whole experience, to see these numbers not as messages that you need to figure out, but as something completely different. So let's put these two ideas side by side. The common view, right? It says numbers are messages to decode. You receive a sign from somewhere out there. But this other view, it's way more personal. It says the numbers are mirrors of your own alignment. You're not just passively getting a message, no. You are actively resonating with these signs, because your own awareness is now vibrating at a frequency where you can actually perceive them. Let's just let that sink in for a second. You do not receive numbers, you resonate with them. I mean, really think about that. That simple shift changes everything. It takes the power away from some mysterious external source and puts it right back where it belongs, with you, with your own state of being. The signs are just a reflection of an internal shift that's already taking place inside of you. And there's actually a beautiful word for this specific transitional phase, sandhya. It literally means that in-between state. You can think of it like twilight or dusk, that magical time when the old you is dissolving away, but the new you hasn't quite taken shape yet. It's in that exact state of flux, of pure potential, that these signs become the most visible. So, okay, if it's not about decoding messages or predicting the future, then what's the point of it all, right? This brings us to the real purpose of this whole experience, and it also answers the other big question. Why, eventually, do the signs seem to just fade away? Here's another game-changing idea for you. The repetition isn't for reassurance. The universe isn't just trying to pat you on the back and say, hey, good job, you're on the right path. No. In this view, repetition is activation. It's a tool. It's designed to grab your attention again and again, to literally jolt you out of your mental autopilot and wake you up to the present moment. All right, let's pull all of this together. Here are the key things to remember. First, the purpose isn't prediction, it's presence. It's all about right now. Second, when you see a sign, it's just confirming that in that split second, you were truly conscious, you were awake. Third, these numbers are like temporary scaffolding, They're there to help you while you're rebuilding, but they're not meant to be permanent guidance. And that leads to the last point. As your awareness becomes more stable on its own, the numbers they fade away. Their job is done. So really, when you boil it all down, the reason these angel numbers pop up during our hardest times isn't some big mystery. It's actually beautifully simple. It's because that intense emotional pain is the very thing that cracks the hard shell of the ego. And that crack is what allows a deeper, more authentic awareness to finally flood in. So it's not a sign that you're broken, it's a sign that you're breaking open.